get your shit splat. Stop letting this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. Get your lick back. If a nigga owe you something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your shit splat. Stop letting this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. I feel like I'm JX. J-Way. I'm a perfectionist. Adderall got me restless. I'm gone. Run with a wild crew, they get reckless. Young boy, come up off that neck. Give me that. To the trends. See you, Lee, be the best.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Who Will Be King. I'm here with my NFC North comrades. This is a Friday evening edition, which is a little bit of a switch up, but we're gonna get things going. I'm gonna let these guys introduce themselves. We'll start in Chicago. Who do we have?
Oh, you know who it is. It's Pay, representing the aforementioned Chicago, best city in the world. Coming to you live, Frustrated Chicago Sports Fan channel, where we cover all things Chicago sports, Chicago life, everything under the sun, Chicago in to Chicago in. Thanks a lot there, B. Foster.
And who do we have representing the Minnesota Vikings?
Hey, it's me, Dave Stefano, better known as Luf Krieger. And for those that don't know, that is Norse for Air Warrior. And I am the executive producer over at Vikings First and Skull, where we talk everything purple and gold.
And if you're watching on YouTube, you'll probably be familiar with me, but I am one half of Bleachers to Speakers. B. Foster, we got June is missing this one, but he'll be back next week. And we're in the NFC, we're in the off-season portion of the show. We obviously got about a month before the training camp starts. I think the Lions start July 19th. Obviously, I think we're going back a little sooner because we have the Hall of Fame game, but yet and still we have some news. And the first topic we're going to get on is the signing of Jair Alexander. Last week, I think we all came to a general consensus that we were not interested in adding him for one reason or another, whether it's the money or, not knowing, getting suspended for not knowing how to operate a coin toss or just injuries or anything else. But he has been signed by the Baltimore Ravens. He's a former two-time Pro Bowler of the Green Bay Packers. He was drafted in 2018, and he signed a $4 million deal with the Baltimore Ravens to be reunited with his former college teammate, Lamar Jackson. He's got $2 million in incentives as well. And it appears he turned down some bigger bags to go to Baltimore and be reunited. But what are your guys' reactions after seeing where he ended up?
I'll let you go first, Dave.
I was just happy he didn't end up in the North for a variety of reasons. And would he have cost if he only cost $4 million? Yeah, well, I think all of us could have afforded him easily. Yeah. But now that he's gone to the Ravens, we all play the Ravens this season. And it's going to be one of the tougher games on all of our schedules because how good the Ravens are. But I find it interesting. I'm going to see if he gets Justin Jefferson-itis once again when we get ready to play him. And by that, I mean he tends to skip out on Justin Jefferson games.
Well, he skips out on a lot of games there, Dave.
Well,
be fair.
He comes up with his, he's got a female part hurts or something like that. And it's it is what it is. He doesn't like being embarrassed by Justin Jefferson, which happens when he does play against the Minnesota Vikings. So we'll see this season. But overall, for the Ravens, hey, good for them. I think it adds to their defense, which is scary for the AFC North.
Yeah, so for the Ravens, I'll start with that perspective of the question. The rich get richer. For that room, they didn't need another big name in that on that defense whatsoever, right? Jair Alexander, while he has had some issues staying on the field, staying healthy the last few seasons, when he was healthy, you already said he was a two-time Pro Bowler. He was an All-Pro. And I think last offseason we talked about him. I think we came to the conclusion he was a top 5 player in the NFC North, right? The Packers easily their best player. So when he's right, he's extremely good. I don't want to besmirch the man's name and that with that. Now, however, there are some whispers about his locker room. I guess leadership. There's some whispers. Obviously, not his health, as I already spoke about. His health is something that is a major concern. But the Ravens, if he's low risk, high reward. If he's good, he's gonna lead them to great things. In which they were already in the AFC title game, right? Were they? No, they missed out on AFC title game. Um, they're already one of the best teams in the AFC, and if they hit on him, look out. They probably can go right back to that go to the Super Bowl, which they've been trying to get to for the last few years. They finally get over the hump. Now, as it relates for our division, Dave is right. If you didn't watch our show last week, none of us wanted our teams to entertain the idea of bringing Jair Alexander on for the reasons why he's expensive. 2, he's always hurt. And 3, the whispers about his leadership. So we dodged the bullet all there because we all know how our teams operate. We want them to do something, and they do the opposite. Some of our teams more than the others. I think for the Packers, though, cutting him, obviously they save a lot of cap space. I think they saved almost $20 million in cap when they got rid of him, something like that. And then there was like I said, his injuries. They are already used to playing without him, so it's not a big loss for them. However, it does still mean that cornerback room is the weakest part of their team. I don't think cutting him is the addition by subtraction that they would like for everyone to believe. I definitely think, yes, you may be used to playing without him, but you're not better without him.
I was listening to a podcast just before we got started with the athletics beat writers for the Vikings and the Packers. And Green Bay has been talking about Jair Alexander for the last month or so, up until they released him. And it's been a hot topic. But obviously it would be, you got somebody that's made the Pro Bowl twice. Is he good for the team? And the fan base was relatively split. But hey, it is what it is. They're just glad it's over with.
Absolutely. And just to conclude on that, I mean, I think that adding him, because like you said, the rich is getting richer. The Ravens always seem to have a pretty solid defense. Last year, I think they were first against the run. I think they were second as far as sacks was concerned. But I think the one main factor that they were missing, despite having guys like Kyle Hamilton, who was a top safety, Marlon Humphreys, and the young corner Nate Wiggins, I think they were missing that corner opposite to him, and obviously, who better to bring in there than one of the top, the top corners in all the league. So I think that this could ultimately be something that could possibly hope, for their sake, push them over the top in the AFC. So, we'll obviously the NFC North will get a good look at them. What do you guys think? You guys don't have to disclose who do you think the Ravens might beat, but how do you think he'll fare as far as record-wise against the NFC North? Obviously, Dave thinks that he's going to skip out on the Minnesota Vikings, but out of the 4 games, how many of those do you think that the Ravens will win?
Well, I already know the Ravens. Let me not say no. I predicted the Ravens are going to beat the Bears when they play them. I think that's week 10 or so. Somewhere around that time. So that's one game right there. They're going to beat the Packers. 2. Um, if Jared doesn't play against the Vikings, and Dave already told us last week that the Vikings play the Ravens at home, so that probably be a difficult game for them. So I think at worst 2-2. Now I do want to put this caveat out there. You all are aware of Lamar Jackson's career record against the NFC, right?
I'm not. Fill us in.
I think he's only lost twice against the NFC in his whole career as a starter.
Interesting.
Yeah, none of the games are close. They come out and drag the NFC every time he plays them. Look, fact check me on that, but it's something like a crazy record. It's like 18-2, something crazy like that. I mean, the last team that played him was Detroit Lions. Am I right?
Probably, certainly a game that I would like to forget, but that might be the case. Yeah, we're another team that doesn't. Well, obviously he does well against the NFC as a whole, but I have memories of that. The longest kick, was it the longest kick in NFL history or something like that? The Tucker, who's no longer even on the team, ironically, but yeah, and then one of the times after that was just a trouncing. I think it was the year we actually made the playoffs, but
yeah, it was not this past season. Was it the year before last, or was it last season?
It wasn't last year. It was I think it was 2020. Oh my god.
Yeah.
2023. Yeah.
Yeah. So
20,
yeah. He said, Tim, it's blocking your face, so I don't want to keep it up too long. But 23-1 is what Tim says. So yeah, that's pretty insane. I didn't know it was that crazy, but
you want to hear a crazy stat?
Yeah, let's hear it.
Every time the Vikings played the Ravens so far, and since the history of the Ravens have been in existence, and the Vikings obviously longer,
right?
That season, if the Vikings won, they went to the NFC Championship game. If the Vikings lost, the head coach got fired.
Oh, wow.
Now, with Kevin O'Connell being head coach of the year, he's not going to get fired.
So that means
we're going to win and go to the NFC Championship, baby.
Write it down. Write it down there, B. Foster. We got a declaration. Right. It's in the stars already.
In 2009 and 2017.
Okay. So do you see anybody else? So obviously you got Minnesota. When do you see anybody else in the NFC North taking them down? The Packers, maybe?
Yeah, whatever.
It's going to be a fun game to watch.
Yeah. Whole lot of purple in that game between the two, yeah.
But
I hope the Ravens wear their alternate all blacks. Man, I love those jerseys. When they wear black on black, they go. That's crazy. With the purple helmets.
Could be. We play them November 9th at noon at home, which generally means we'll be wearing purple on that day.
Yeah. Packers are taking a loss.
Yeah, that's safe.
1-5 in the division last year. Trash.
Speaking of which, that brings us to the perfect segue. Thank you, Pay. I wanted to talk about how up in Green Bay, it looks like Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst backsides are getting a little bit hotter this season.
Is that because they're sitting on something that might be a little inflamed?
Possibly. It's because of Ed Policy.
The
new president of football operations, as of 5 days from now, he was asked about, does he plan on giving those two individuals an extension, being that they have 2 years left on their contracts? And he said, no, not at this time. Even though he does not believe in lame duck coaches or GMs, it is too early for him to decide. Now, why did he hesitate is the question. Hey, why do you think he hesitated?
In my experiences with this type of stuff, when you see front office personnel answer questions with a non-answer, it's because it's one or two things. One, it's because they don't want to give the media anything they can run with and start and make a distraction, put their names in the news, right? They don't want to do that. The other reason is because they haven't come to an answer, versus in this situation, a contract in contract talks. If you're going to extend this guy, well, you hem and haw a little bit and you BS the answer out, right? That means we don't know. That means there's a possibility, like you said, Dave, that we might go in a different direction. Every time there's a new boss, there's a new HNIC, there's a new president of ops, there's a new general manager, new coach. They always want their guys. Now that you got a new president of football ops up there in Green Bay,
which is roughly equivalent to the GM and everybody else's team.
Correct. And now, it wouldn't be outside of the norm for him to go want to get guys that's more in line with his way of thinking of how to run a football team. So yeah, I agree. And when I said that there might be sitting on something inflamed, I wasn't talking about
hemorrhoids.
Yes, I was not talking about hemorrhoids. Yeah, I'm also talking about this seat cushions being a little warm.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Foster, why would policy get rid of Gutekunst and LaFleur? LaFleur is considered one of the great offensive minds in the league, but is he?
Hey, maybe the professional quarterback isn't performing up to the standards that they would hope after spending all that money, and maybe they just think that maybe LaFleur is not the guy to make that happen. So, but I hadn't put too much thought into it up until you just asking just now. So, go to Jesus. But yeah, that's my best assessment of that situation.
I got a stat for you guys too. We got a stat show going on right now. Aaron Rodgers was 27 when he won a Super Bowl. So was Brett Favre. Guess how old Jordan Love turns this year?
20. You're going to say 7.
Yeah.
Now it's going to end.
Yeah, that streak is over already. Not happening.
Yeah.
But what has been the recent history of Green Bay's records? Where have they finished in the division?
I think in the last 5 years, I know Detroit's won it twice in the last 5 years, right? Minnesota, you guys won it once.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I think Green Bay's got it the other 2 times.
Actually, that's right. In the last 5, they finished 3rd last year. They finished 2nd in 2023. They finished 3rd in 2022. They were 1st in 21 and 1st in 20. 21, they lost the division round in the division round, and 20 they lost in the conference round.
Mm-hmm.
Fans are getting a little perturbed that they're keep going in and not getting any farther than one and done type of deal, and I fully understand that frustration.
Yeah,
they're kind of used to being on top of things, so different feeling.
Everything that I've learned in my life is that when you go in, you got to do the business. None of that in and out and quick satisfaction. You gotta make sure you gotta keep the fans happy. Give them something. Give them multiple rounds of performance.
That's what she said.
Definitely.
With that, there's also the deal of I've heard that LaFleur, once he faces a certain type of defense, i.e., like the Rams, he tends to get frustrated, or if he gets behind in a game, and he tends to get frustrated and he makes mistakes calling the game, which of course is wonderful for us because we all put them in that sort of situation. So it's going to be interesting to see how this actually plays this season, I would think. And where do we have the Packers finishing this year?
Well, I got them finishing last. I think the odds makers, they have them going 9-5. I think that's their win. That's their over under.
Correct. So does 9-5? It doesn't win you the division, most likely.
Yeah. No, this isn't the NFC South.
So it's if they go 9-5 and finish second, I shouldn't say 9-5, 9.5 wins.
Yeah, y'all were confusing me for a second. I'm like, what's going on?
9.5 wins.
9.5. That's my bad.
Yeah, 9 wins. What is it? 7 losses, 1 tie. That's not going to make the playoffs. I don't think. It's going to be rough.
The Vikings won 14 games, and that didn't even get them a division. So I mean, granted, things are probably going to shake out a little different, but yeah, it's going to be tough.
Right. It is because we play the AFC North this year.
Right.
And said Ravens we just talked about with Jair Alexander, except for my game, which he'll be hiding. So, I find it interesting. I think I want all of our 3 teams to help expedite a regime change in Green Bay.
For the best.
Let us help Ed Policy, the new president of operations in Green Bay, make that decision.
On it.
Absolutely. All right. So we're going to get to the first break and then, go ahead.
Well, I've got one last stat before we go to break, and we can use this as a sort of a segue. Jordan Love versus the NFC North last season. 1,436 yards passing, 8 TDs, 6 picks. 1-5 record, right? As I already stated. The other team finished 1-5, and I wouldn't be being fair if I didn't point that out. Hi, my team also finished 1-5 in the division. Caleb Williams, starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears. 1,531 passing yards, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions. See you in the basement there, Jordan Love.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And speaking of Jordan Love, he had that one half of the season where he played outstanding, top 10 quarterback, and he got his extension. And last year, they talked about how he looked sloppy with his technique and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Brutal.
Does he fix it? Or is that normal, Jordan Love?
We shall find out.
Absolutely. All right, let's take a break. All right, so we talked a little bit about the odds as far as win-loss record going into the year. Mine were a little. Well, I had the Packers at 9 as opposed to 9.5. So maybe we can kind of compare those so that we get everything right. But I want everybody to go down the line, campaigning for their team. As far you can state what your plus minus is, and why your team will perform above the expected win total. We can start with Dave.
Vegas only has them at 8.5 wins, which I think is ridiculously stupid. It's all based on J.J. McCarthy and the fact that nobody knows him nationally. And they're like, we haven't seen him play. So I've seen him play. I watch him every day. There's practice and there's stuff that comes out. Our team in the offseason beefed up our offensive line. So did the Bears. And believe it or not, the Packers are rearranging theirs as well. We beefed up our offensive line. We beefed up the interior line. And we're solid. One of the things I'm going to be talking about this Sunday on 2 Bloggers is how we have no competitions at starters. None. Everybody's got a spot. Now we got competitions at backups and who will be the number 3 cornerback. And we've got depth for the first time in a long time. So with all that's done to the Minnesota Vikings, still having KOC call plays, still having Brian Flores calling plays on defense, there's no way we hit 8.5. We blow by it this season, even with the tougher schedule.
So, definitively, J.J. McCarthy is an upgrade over Sam Darnold.
Yes, will be. Mm-hmm.
Got it. So obviously everything points to not Sam Darnold, but J.J. McCarthy this season. He's your player to watch. He's your breakout player. Everything like that. Everything is hinging on what would be a rookie quarterback.
First year starter. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's rookie season, even though he did have the luxury of being able to sit around in camps and get the tutelage on the sidelines. So it's not it is his second year, obviously, but first time playing in the NFL. With that said, do you think you all will have a better return than you had in 2024? Season-wise.
As in a better record?
Not necessarily a better record, but a better season.
Yes. Overall. Will be, I think, the offense and the defense both will be ranked top 5s, which will be an improvement. And we'll get in the playoffs. We'll probably win the division. We'll get into the playoffs, and we'll win a playoff game.
Got it.
Offense.
Because KOC is, that's one of things that have. Now, he got it as an extension, so he's not worried for his job, but that's one of the things that he has to mark off his checklist.
Well, you all won top 5 in both last year?
No, we were, I want to say 5 on defense and like 14 on offense.
Wow.
When all said and was done. Mm-hmm. The 2 teams we lost to killed us. And those are the Lions and the Rams.
Right. Oh, that's correct. That's wow. I think. Well, I do remember talking about the offense taking a step back after Darisaw got hurt. So that makes sense. So now he's coming back,
and he's already out practicing individual drills. Practicing. I see one of my guys is here, Delton, talking about your quarterback.
There is.
I wasn't gonna put that out.
There is what was that? What was that? Oh yeah. So the odds makers got you all 8-5, same as the Bears. Do you all think, in addition to where you say you're going to win the division, you're going to have a top 5 offense and defense, and you're going to make it to the second round of the playoffs with a first-year starter at quarterback, is any of this buoyed by you adding somebody like Jalen Ramsey?
Possibly. I told you the only competition we have is who's going to be cornerback 3. Right now, it's Brian Murphy Jr.'s obviously the starter, Pro Bowler. And we got Isaiah Rodgers from the Eagles, who this will be his first year as a full-time starter, but he's one that Brian Flores has been watching since he played at UMass. And the question is, who's going to number 3? Would it be Okudah, which Foster knows all too well, or will it be Mekhi Blackman, who we drafted a few years ago, but last year suffered torn ACL and MCL in the first day of practice during the offseason. We don't know. Now, could it be that we get a certain corner from Miami? Who knows?
I hope you don't get that.
I don't know. They seem pretty happy with the cornerback room, but we'll see.
Got it.
But they're not afraid to make moves if somebody pops up.
All right. Pay, did you make your case for the Bears?
Let's talk about the Bears. The Bears, like I said, they're also coming in at 8.5 wins, according to the odds makers. The key question in Chicago: can Ben Johnson translate his offensive, success that he's had with Detroit into being a successful head coach in Chicago? He was the most covered. He was the number one on everybody's head coaching board. Everybody that was looking for a new head coach. The last two off seasons, he ended up with the Bears, who was always his number one choice. The number one takeaway from which was the biggest jewel in Chicago's offseason, the great offseason that Chicago's had. That was the biggest jewel that they got. But concerns are what they are. I can always pour syrup on shit and call it pancakes, right? But we've seen in the past that being a successful offensive coordinator does not always mean you're going to be a successful head coach. Cliff Kingsbury comes to mind. Somebody else a lot of Bears fans wanted to be the head coach. We've already seen what he did as a head coach. No, thank you. Josh McDaniels, we've seen that, twice now? No, thank you. And they were terrific as offensive coordinators. Maybe even just as terrific as Ben Johnson. So there's a lot to be proven. Yes, as we say in Chicago, and just tongue in cheek, offseason champs, three-peat. We like three-peats in Chicago. We got this. We got this in the bag. Now it's time to start getting some actual real wins when the fall hits, and that is like I said, that's the number one key question for the Bears. The position to watch is the rebuilt offensive line that Dave talked about. That was one of the issues that plagued this squad last year. Probably the most visible one on while you're watching the team. Well, if you was watching them closer, you saw boneheaded decisions coming from the sideline. That was also one of the things bringing this team down. But Johnson's ability to create a diverse offensive attack and to get many players into position to be successful is one of the things that I like about Ben Johnson and bringing to this team. Because last season, coming into the season, we said Chicago had the deepest wide receiver room in the league, right? Got all these weapons for Caleb Williams, so he has no reason but not to have a rookie of the year type of campaign. Problem is, our offensive coordinator Shane Waldron did not know how to put all those guys into use. You saw weeks on end in which Cole Kmet, our tight end, was not involved in the offense. Weeks on end, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, fill in the blank, not involved with the game plan whatsoever. It's something that was frustrating that I don't think we'll have any issue going forward with Ben Johnson. I am confident I can say that right now. If he's got his thumb on the offense, I know that these guys will be utilized week in and week out. Also, to bring it back to the offensive line, we might have our fat boys out there catching passes and throwing passes, catching stuff like that, as we saw what they had in Detroit last year. There's been some clips from minicamp with the fat boys throwing passes and running routes. So I would like to see that too. Because if we see something like that, that means we've already done our job and we've won this game comfortably. Now we can get a little cute. I'll prefer that. What the Bears did in this offseason and improving that offensive line. All-Pro Joe Thuney, Pro Bowler Drew Dominant from Atlanta, former Pro Bowler Jonah Jackson from Los Angeles Rams. The interior offensive line for the Bears, all redone. All these guys are not only skilled, but they're also come to work day in and day out. They bring their lunch pail, their hard hat, and their boots, and they get ready to put boots on the ground. That was one of the issues with the Bears last season, or the last few seasons. Offensive line was in turmoil because guys were constantly injured or just not practicing and coming to work. You just can't have that when you're trying to win games. That is an improvement that you can already say right now that's going to help this team move in the right direction on offense. On the defense, move in the right direction to help the offense and the breakout player on the offense, Caleb Williams. Like I said, awful play calling, mediocre offensive line, and a defensive focused head coach that probably had zero interest in helping the offense move in the right direction. Last year kind of hindered Caleb, and he had his best games when he said, F it, I'm just going to do what I feel like doing. And we can't have that. I mean, we can't have a rookie, no matter how good he is, playing off script because he just has no trust in what's coming from the sideline. All prop to him. Stuff coming from the sideline was BS anyway. But we have to be on the same page. You can't win in this league if everybody's not on the same page. So he got the coach he desired most in Ben Johnson. The offensive line has been retooled and upgraded. The wide receivers are still very potent. Keenan Allen is still looking for a job. He probably still last I heard he was still hanging out in Chicago. So I don't know. He's waiting for a phone call from Hallis Hall. No, don't do that. We drafted Colston Loveland, one of your boys from Michigan, Foster. So, and Luther Burton, who's been injured most of the offseason program, but I expect him to be a very key piece to the offense going forward at some point in this season, probably in the second half of the season. But I do believe that the Bears will definitely be better than they were last season. It's kind of hard not to be better than 5-12. So bringing in a defense coordinator like Dennis Allen, who is a two-time head coach, a guy that's proven as a defensive coordinator. Let him just take over the defense, bring in with all the guys that we got over there, and let Ben Johnson control the offense. I like where all signs point to the Bears going over that 8.5 and securing a playoff berth for the first time since 2019? Yeah, 2019.
All right, so you're predicting they make the playoffs this year?
Absolutely. Stamp it.
Wild card, division?
When the schedule broke and we broke it down, he gave us our first season prediction. I did say I think the Bears will be in play for the division coming into the last few weeks of the season. And based on what happens there, I know we got Detroit the last week of the season. I think a lot of things could be up to play right then and there coming into that. So I think Detroit's going to be a 12-win team. I don't want to spoil it for you, because you got to talk about this next. But I think Detroit will be around 12, 13 wins. So they might have something. They may or may not have something to play for that week. So I'm more comfortable in saying the Bears will be in the playoffs. I'm saying that easily right now. It's a wild card. It's something I'm willing to stamp right now. Division, we shall see.
All right. And to wrap things up, the Detroit Lions over under, I said plus minus, but y'all know what I meant. Over under was 10 wins. And one of the main reasons why you might as well smash over 10 wins is because we had 15 last year. Although our schedule is much tougher this go round, I mean, I think our opponent's winning percentage was around the ninth, made us the ninth toughest schedule even last year. So that was all done in spite of the fact that nearly half our team was on the injured reserve. So obviously you can't bank on, I mean, a lot of things got to go right for you to win 15 games with all that going on. So with us knowing that the division is going to be a stronger division overall, and the fact that we will be playing against better competition. We played against the AFC South. We'll be going against the AFC North this time around. It'll definitely be less than 15, but certainly more than 10. I kind of like the 12 wins. That's a legitimate win mark. But this is the time is now for us as far as our window. We've invested a boatload of money into our core. We're right at the moment where a lot of our players are starting to hit their peak. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell, Jahmyr Gibbs, is ascending and getting towards his peak. Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph. We got a ton of guys right now that are ascending. They've got playoff experience. My biggest concern being the offensive line, the interior of our offensive line, and us adjusting to having all the new coaches. That's something that I would love to be delusional and just look right past. But the reality is that we did lose a pretty good play caller, to put it to totally downplay it, as well as our defensive coordinator, who kind of kept things together with all the injuries that we experienced. So those are things that we're going to have to definitely keep an eye on, but certainly no concerns about falling below 10 wins. Like I said, we won 15 last year, and although I don't think that we'll hit that mark this year. I think that we'll be well above the over under. But yeah.
So the biggest question, I guess, for Detroit this offseason is obviously replacing those coordinators, all the coaches that you all lost. And I don't want to soft pedal this because it is a big thing. Dave, you could back me up on this. History
and the training room, for that matter.
Yeah, of course. Because history has shown, Dave and B. Foster, that losing both coordinators in one single offseason has not yielded the best results the following season. Dave, what was the 49ers after 94 when they lost Shanahan and Ray Rhodes? They weren't Super Bowl contenders anymore, right?
No.
The 2004 Patriots, they lost Charlie Weiss and Romeo Crennel. It took them a while to get back to where they was, and you had to get what was his name? I'm blanking on his name, but even going back to the 2013 Bengals, remember when they had that year after year after year with playoff appearances? They lost Jay Gruden and Mike Zimmer. What happened after that? It fell right off after that. The Eagles most recently, I remember after they won the Super Bowl when they, all the fans were in the street eating horse manure. What happened a few weeks later? Shane Steichen got a head coaching job, and then Jonathan Gannon, he also left. And then they had a terrible season following up. So, Foster, I think for those that have not heard you talk about it, why will John Morton and what's his name, Shepard, why would they be different?
That's a good question. And yet I was going to answer that question. Yeah. So Kelvin Shepard and is going to be the new defensive coordinator, and Johnny Morton. I know that's the player, but yeah, John Morton is the new offensive coordinator. I do not have an answer to that. That's something that we will certainly have to just keep an eye out, because I don't know enough about him or enough history to debunk the history you tossed out at me. So that's something that we're going to have to see. And to Mr. Vincent's point about us starting slow, we started slow last year, actually, which me and June kind of anticipated was due to the fact that none of our starters played a down in the preseason. So I know that they're very cautious about injuries and how, preseason, you don't want to risk that with even if it does mean that you'll get into a groove in the preseason. But I'm hoping that some of our starters get a little bit of playing time just so they can get their feet wet and work up that lather, as your boy would say over over in Chicago, because we'll need it. It's not going to be easy, and the window is open for us to start that Super Bowl run. So got to get it going early.
Gotta want to learn. Gotta want to earn. John Morton and Kelvin Shepherd, they weren't already in the program. Well, not program, but already on the staff.
Yeah, and that would have been a good point. Yeah, so Kelvin Shepherd has been the linebacking coach for some time. So he's definitely been working under the tutelage of Aaron Glenn, and he's been kind of the understudy and prepped up to that point. So and then Johnny Morton, I believe he was most recently with the Raiders, I believe, but he would previous to that, he coached the receivers with the Lions. So neither coach is completely, ignorant or, just brand new. Yes, brand new to the Lions system. And Dan Campbell, they both coached under Dan Campbell. So they're not just coming clean out of nowhere, but this is certainly a upgraded and more responsibilities to man the whole side of that offense and defense. So yeah.
I wish I could have a 15-win team and start slow.
Yeah, y'all started hot.
I think let's start slow this time. Let's start slow this season and maybe let's get to 15 wins. Let's do that instead of what we did last season.
Delton also says he wants all of us to go over 10 wins, and I'm assuming that's these three teams and not Green Bay.
Packers, screw them.
Right
now, my only question, and I missed it because I had to step out, was to pay. What's your worries about Ben Johnson being a first-time head coach, dealing with all the outside stuff that a head coach has to deal with? All the minutiae.
So head coaches aren't typically more so in supervisory modes like that, right? If that's to make it easier for the layman to understand. They don't necessarily they more so delegate than more so do, right? I delegate my offensive responsibilities to the offensive coordinator. They handle the ins and outs of setting up the game plans, getting the depth charts and all that stuff together, and so on. And so doing the film study as well. Same thing on the defensive side. Same thing with the special teams coach. Everybody does what they're supposed to do. And as a head coach, you're really just it's a day after Juneteenth. I don't want to use this term, but the overseer. You're really just that's really what you're going to do right there. So Ben Johnson has to. I think one thing he has to do is he has to learn to take a step back. Not so have to be so hands-on as he has been in his whole coaching career. Now, with that said, he did hire a two-time head coach in Dennis Allen to run the defense. So I don't think there's anybody more accomplished available this offseason as a defensive coordinator than him. He doesn't have to worry about the defense at all. He can just already block that off. He can poke his head into a meeting here and that every now and then, quiz a guy, and he go be on about his way. Make sure everybody's paying attention. As far as the offense, we already know he's calling plays. So that's an area of familiarity for him. I like that. The guy we hire for offensive coordinator is a relative no-name. I feel that his job as the offensive coordinator will more so just be to grind game tape and give that report to Ben Johnson on a weekly basis. Let him do that, and Ben Johnson can stay in his lane and do what got him to all these millions of dollars getting paid out of Chicago. I'm calling a great game. I'm setting up the offense. I don't have to grind any tape because I got somebody else to do that. and we can just go on our way. Now, again, you still are in a supervisory mode, so his hours in his day are not going to be as available as they were as an offensive coordinator, even though they're not really available as an offensive coordinator either. But as a supervisor of a full football team, it is going to be tough for Ben Johnson, and I do worry that he'll be able to do all of these tasks while also maintaining a um, seemingly offensive coordinator type of role. I do believe that he will be able to do it because, as I said already before, the defense is already taken care of. Special team is already taken care of. He doesn't really have to worry about what's going on over there unless there's some sort of insurrection or malfeasance happening over there. It's Chicago. Anything's happen. Um, but if all things are considered equal, and right as we're sitting right now, June 20th, 80 days away from kickoff, I would give the more positive thought about his ability to be able to succeed in that way, and I think he will be.
Well, that's all great and grand, but it wasn't exactly what I was aiming for. It's the stuff from the Chicago Bears Entertainment Network needs an approval to put out this clip, and the coach has to see it. It's NFL offices needing something from him. It's this, it's that. It's all the extra BS stuff that bombards a head coach from the outside, not just the football stuff. I fully believe he'll handle the football stuff just fine. It's all that extra stuff that every new coach that I've ever seen gives, an interview after the season going, "Hi, I'm exhausted. I can't believe all this extra stuff, all these extra interviews I got to do, all this blah, 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 etc." That's what I'm curious about, is how he deals with all of that.
Well, I think first thing, heavy is the head that wears the crown. You're not going to hear me boo-hoo for him and cry him a river for that. He accepted the job. He wanted the job, so he this comes with the job. You will find out as you ascend in your career, wherever field that may be. The higher you go, the more paperwork there is, the more stuff you say that minor or not minor, but minutia that you have to deal with just because it is now for you. I know commissioners of the league, NFL, MLB, wherever have you. Majority of their day is taking meetings and signing off on can this partner or can our media be used here and stuff like that. Stuff that you don't want to deal with as a boss, right? But you have to, and that's just the nature of the beast. Now, for Ben Johnson, I still don't think his family has moved to Chicago. So, and why that's important to your question, Dave, I think if he doesn't have that, and I don't want to use this term flippantly, if he doesn't have a familiar distraction, it does free him up to have a little bit of bandwidth for the outside stuff that he has to do that comes along with the job. So since that's the case at this point, I feel like he will be able to fare well, right? Now that's not always going to be that. That's not always going to be the situation. They will eventually move here and there, buy a house, and live a happy Brady Bunch life.
And he'll eventually get used to all this.
Yeah, of course.
Minutia, as you call
it.
Right.
Of course. Yeah, it hits everybody differently. Yeah, having a particular bandwidth, and we do the same thing as producers of a podcast. It is a lot of nonsense that you just have to expand your bandwidth or fan with. If, as a fan, you have to. You got to maximize the hours of the day. And being an offensive coordinator, I think Ben Johnson came up as a tight ends coach. Being a tight ends coach and going from that to coordinator and that to head coach, the only way you become successful in that in that way is knowing how to maximize the hours of the day. And that is exactly, you're going to have to do that 10 times over as a head coach.
Yep. And delegate where you can. Learn to delegate where you can.
That's exactly right.
All right. So we are just about to that hour mark. So I have one more thing, but we can save that for another time. In closing, where can we find you guys if we want to learn more about the Bears and the Minnesota Vikings?
Well, you can find the Bears over at the Frustrated Chicago Sports Fan channel, available on YouTube and audio only everywhere you get your podcasts. That's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, Pandora, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, Castbox, and others. Check us out. We are a great follow, always fun, and you can always learn something and get a good laugh along the way.
All right. And Dave, what you got coming up?
You can find me over at Vikings First and Skull on YouTube, on podcasts, everywhere. Your favorite podcast aggregator has us. We do written stuff over at Fans First Sports Network. They are our partners also in the podcast. And you can find us. We also have a Facebook page. But what we've got coming up, today is Friday. That means Sunday is Two Old Bloggers where Darren and I pontificate on the good happenings of the Minnesota Vikings over the last week. Now, for this show this Sunday, one of the topics is going to be on the 53-man roster. Every single team seems to be putting out, all the beat writers, hey, let's do a 53-man roster projection. Well, we're not doing a roster projection. We're seeing where there are open holes for possibly a player to win a spot. We're going at it about hopefully a little bit wiser than the traditional, hey, I've got JJ McCarthy starting QB1, no shit, sort of stuff. So join us on Sunday, 4:00 Central, Two Old Bloggers.
All right. And you can subscribe if you want some more Lions news. You can subscribe at Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube, as well as on all audio aggregators. On Sunday, me and Coach always do our weekly recap of the Detroit Tigers. So you guys can stay tuned for that. We are currently still standing as the best baseball team in the major leagues. So good times over there. But we always find something to keep things interesting because the trade deadline is coming up and we want to improve our team so we can get to try to get to the World Series for the first time in a long time. I want to say 2008 maybe. So we got that going on. The NBA draft is coming up, so we'll be covering some prospects and talking trades and draft and all that good stuff. But as we wrap up, what do they say in Chicago?
We say bear down.
And Dave, what do we say in Detroit? Do you know that? Do you have that available for us?
I do have that. Let me get to it. In Detroit, it's, what is it? Go Pride?
The second part.
And of course, Minnesota, it's Skull Vikings.
Thanks for tuning in.
Get your lick back. If a nugget on you something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your shit splat. Stop letting shit slide.